All right, legends, we're here today to unlock the secrets and our opinions about choosing the perfect touring vehicle. We're going to be covering standard dual cab vehicles that are available to purchase from new in the current market. We're going to be going through budget with a breakdown of vehicles up to 100,000, from 100 to 150, and the much loved 150,000 and up. We're going to be going through payload of vehicles along with accessories and some real world experience from what we've actually done and what vehicles we've owned or driven. So make sure you stay tuned. This is Shop Talk number 5. Let's get stuck into it. All right, legends, this episode is proudly brought to you by the Standard Squeeze. If you are worried about your payload, make sure you jump on, grab a Standard Squeeze. They're an awesome little product. So joining us today, we've got Brent.
Hey guys, Brent, as Jimmy said, I'm the operations manager here at Core Offroad. I've got a Ram 1500 and I tow around a 20-foot caravan when we do our touring and travels and things like that. So I'll be giving you my opinion on that as we go along.
Yeah, I'm Brendan. I'm part of the sales team here at Core Offroad. So I'm up the front with the boys. We're taking you details for initial steps, trying to guide you guys through the process from start to finish. I'm in the midst of choosing the right vehicle at the moment, in a BT50 at the moment, so...
Yeah, hey, I'm Nick. Well, I suppose you could quite often say that I'm part of, well, these builds here, but you don't actually see what I do, really, do you? I mean, it's all sort of undercover. So no, I sort of put together all the aluminium parts and the fabrication side of these canopies. And well, I'm actually a driver of a Ranger. Don't hold that against me by any means. But the full driving side, I suppose, and the travelling caravanning is a big part of my life. I've also got another business myself, which involves caravans, I suppose, and getting away travelling.
Nico and his wife are the owners of Outback Family Caravans. Campers, sorry. So they've got caravans and campers and that they hire out. So if you're in Perth or you're looking to fly over to WA and hire a car and hook one of Nick's vans onto the back of it, make sure you jump on, check out Outback Family Campers.
Yeah, but we're all here to sort of give our personal opinion, I suppose you could say, on what we sort of think should be the ultimate touring vehicle. And
look, I guess choosing a car is like it's a personal choice. It's like a pair of sunglasses or tyres for your vehicle. What one person loves, the other person may not.
Yeah.
And everybody has different opinions and everything like that. So, look, by any means, this isn't a product review. This is our opinion. We're in the industry, obviously, and we see that many cars come through the shop and through Core Offroad, the sales boys, talking to customers about what they want to set up, whether it be a Jeep Gladiator that they want a full touring canopy on, and we've got to say, no, sorry, that can't happen, all the way through to obviously some of the vehicles that we have behind us. So it's our opinion, our experience. So I think we should get stuck into it, and let's get going through to the first category.
All right, guys. So the other person we've got here today with us is Jimmy, who we forgot to introduce.
All right, guys, I'm Jimmy from Core Offroad. I'm the head labourer here at the company. I take care of all the technical equipment, like sweeping the floors and things like that. I'm fortunate enough as a labourer to drive an F350.
Yes.
I've owned many vehicles in the past, but I now have a US truck, and I absolutely love it.
Life is either do or die. Pressure's all a state of mind. Pleasure just to pass the time. Sit back, enjoy the ride.
Alrighty boys, so the first category we're going to cover today is, I guess, knowing the purpose of the four-wheel drive, knowing what you want out of your car, and I guess that's the first starting point of picking a four-wheel drive, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Going through, working out whether you're looking for a liveaboard vehicle or whether you're towing, whether it's a weekend worry to get out and do some four-wheel driving. I guess, Nico, what are you mainly doing with your car?
It's whether or not you're happy to bash it around too, I suppose, and or if it is something that just hits the tarmac. The only way to sort of get, I suppose, a big vehicle on the road or towing a caravan is to have that big vehicle, and unfortunately, not all of them are actually go off road.
No,
So
there's a difference, I guess, between a touring vehicle and a rock crawler.
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
We've seen there's heaps of people in the industry who have tried to bridge that gap between a touring vehicle and a rock crawler. There isn't one perfect car
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
set up as a full-blown tourer that is then suitable to go
Yeah.
rock crawling and do some of the harder tracks, because to set it up as that full liveaboard car, it's going to weigh a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so, and with what all of us are like, we all want all the mod cons these days, and we want coffee machines and induction cookers, which means batteries and everything else. That's also, I guess, starting off and working out what you want to do with the car is probably the first thing.
Yeah,
Like
and-
even yours, Brent.
Yeah, and being realistic about what you're actually going to do with the car, not what you think you might do one day,
Yeah.
what you're actually going to do, and whether that's looking back over the history of your touring or travelling and what you've actually done and how often, you know. It's one of the things is like serious fall driving, huge river crossings and stuff like that. If you look back how many times you've actually gone through a river crossing that's deep enough that warrants like a massive snorkel or something along those lines, you know. Some people I think get carried away with wanting everything but not actually maybe needing it in reality.
Yeah.
So
And I think getting some decent advice in the industry is one thing. Brendo, you and the team try and help customers through that process.
Yeah, as I say, choosing the right vehicle from the get-go is super important, because there's so many factors with it, like aftermarket accessories, GVMs, GCMs,
Yeah.
all that sort of stuff, which all comes into effect whether you're building a full liveaboard or you plan to hook up a 3.5 tonne van and tow it around Australia.
Yeah.
So
So look, I guess if you are looking at building a brand new vehicle, you want to stay tuned in this video, because some of them things like suitability, payload, price, final price, I guess. It's one thing to look at the cost of a new car,
Yep.
but it's another thing to look at what you need to do to that car. So if you are looking to build a new vehicle, I think stay tuned, because we're going to cover a lot of this stuff in the other segments or sections moving forward. So there's a few things, bit of a recap to consider. What is the purpose you're looking to do with building your new vehicle? That's probably the starting point. If you have a horse float that weighs 4.5 tonne, you're not going to buy a BT50. So they're the things to consider, what you're planning on doing, how big is your caravan and all that kind of stuff. Or are you looking to live out of the vehicle? So there's some of the things that we'll move forward and touch on in the next segment. So make sure, assess what you're actually looking to do with the vehicle first and foremost.
Let out the beast. Let him out.
all right, so we're going to look at budgets now, and we've broken it up into a few categories for you guys just to make it a bit easier. So we've done up to 100,000, then up to 150,000, and then over 150,000 to touch on those three categories and what sort of falls into those categories and what you can get.
I think starting with your budget is the first section. Really, knowing your needs, what vehicle is going to suit what you're trying to do. The next consideration, I guess, is your budget. That's all.
Yep.
If you don't have a budget, well, hats off to you. But breaking it down, as Brent said, so vehicles that we're looking at sort of in the up to 100,000 mark is going to be a 79 series Ford Ranger,
Yep.
BT50, Isuzu D-Max,
Trusty Hilux.
yeah, Hilux as well.
Yep.
All in dual cabs, and some of the specs that we have, we've based it off sort of the mid-range model. Then we go into that sort of 100 to 150 mark. Now, in reality, a 79 series, on paper it may be $80,000, but to get that car nice to drive, it is going to cost you more than 100. So it is going to stay in the up to 100,000 category. The other one that we're going to throw into the mix is a Chop 300 series, which technically on paper, a Chop 300 may land in the 100 to 150 mark, but in reality, it's probably 150 and above. So
Yeah,
I
by the
think
time you get your chop and
GVM and all
Yep,
that kind of
yep.
stuff. So I think, in my opinion, I think that 300 series should go in the top class, being 150 and above. That's probably realistic. So then in that category of 100 to 150, you're obviously looking at Rams, Chevys, I guess the mid-size US truck. Then obviously 150 and over, we're looking at 2,500 Rams, 3,500 Rams,
F-trucks.
the F250 and 350s, along with Chev 2500 and 3500 HDs. So the only other thing that we haven't included in this category, I guess, is the Isuzu MPS truck. So that sort of platform, which is becoming more and more popular, but we're sticking to a dual cab standard Ute. I don't know if it's the type of thing I'd go and get milk and bread in an Isuzu truck. That's also.
Yeah, and look, there's a heap of vehicles as well out there, like the MPS truck that we could get into, and we could sit here for weeks and weeks and talk about it. But we're specifically there, let's say, looking at the dual cab Ute market. And what they're going to be good for, and there's going to be a heap of vehicles as well out there, which we won't go too much into. Other vehicles like the MP300 Navara, the Ford Ranger Raptor models as well, Musos and that sort of thing.
Gladiator,
Jeep Gladiator. There is a heap of vehicles out there which just really don't have enough payload to warrant kitting them out like we do.
Yeah, like a Raptor would be a killer touring car, but with a payload of 700 odd kilos. It's got awesome suspension in it, all that kind of stuff, but a Raptor's probably not suitable as a full-blown touring vehicle with a canopy and all that kind of stuff, that's all.
Yeah.
Like even the wagon side of things is another thing we're not covering in this section.
Yeah, I mean, lots of people have a wagon for touring, I suppose, but you know, it's that's something that we can look at another time, I suppose. And
potentially,
yeah, but I mean, as you said, the dual cab industry is huge in Australia, and that's what we're sort of focusing on.
Yeah, it's massive. Like even when you look at the sales figures, so this was sales up to end of financial this year, so June 30. Ford Ranger, top of the pile, 18,725 units, followed by the Hilux, which was 16,900 units, and surprisingly, in third comes a D-Max, which is 8,810 units. What we do here,
it pretty much reflects that, doesn't it?
Well, probably the least common vehicle that we'd see is a Hilux, to be honest.
Well, yes.
In reality.
And a D-Max is really half the amount of sales of a Hilux. You know what I mean? So
I would say it would be more common. We would probably build 3 times the amount of D-Maxes here
100%
than what we would in Hiluxes.
Yeah,
for sure. I know the Ranger's been slowed up a little bit with availability. That's all with the release of the next gen Ranger. So, but look, some of them sales figures is surprising compared to what we see on a daily basis. But the main section for this is that budget consideration. I think that's one thing that you need to start with. The other thing to consider with your budget is what is going to be the cost of the finished vehicle. So we touched on before about 79 series, right? Now, yes, I think I paid $76,000 for my 79 series in 2014. It cost me a hell of a lot more than 76 grand.
Yep.
So I had upgraded seats and upgraded intercooler and tune and exhaust and everything like that to make that vehicle as capable
somewhat drivable as well.
Yeah, somewhat drivable. The big thing with the 79 series is just, don't get me wrong, they are bulletproof and they are simple, they are basic.
They just work.
They've got a good engine platform, they've got a good drivetrain. Seriously, it's like sitting dead square in that front driver's seat, mate. It's an experience, and I know there's been a lot of people who have bought a 79 series, done 10,000 Ks, and said, no way, I'm out. And they've sold the car because it just wasn't what they thought it was going to be. So I think considering like even some of the cars that are sitting behind us, you know, a D-Max, for example, as a fully bombed out car with a canopy, wheels, tyres, GVM, bull bar, rooftop tent, the whole box and dice, you're probably looking it's going to cost you the same, if not less, as a bog stock Ram 1500.
Absolutely, yeah. And you're on the road ready to go.
Ready to go. You know, so I think that's one thing you need to consider with your budget. What do you need to do in the first segment we spoke about, which is setting the vehicle up for what you want to do or your requirements. It needs to be factored into your budget as well.
Yeah,
you know?
How much are you going to spend on accessories?
Yeah.
How much? And once again, what do you actually need in accessories?
Yep.
You know, not necessarily what would you like. Everyone would like every accessory under the sun.
Yeah.
But what do you need for what you're actually going to do?
Yeah.
And
that's right. You know, so even things like we touched on snorkels earlier. I guess Brent and I's car, we don't have snorkels on them. To be honest, I can't see me. I'm about 1,300 mil to the intake on my car. From factory, I can't see me going through a metre deep water crossing with having 300 mil on top of that in bow wave. I can't see it feasible to put a snorkel on my car.
Yeah.
That's all.
And then you get some other cars which you'd almost recommend them if that's the sort of trip they want to do.
That's right.
I mean, for instance, I've just come back from doing the Gib.
Yeah.
And I mean, I tell you what, some of those water crossings are pretty damn deep.
Yeah.
Like over the bonnet deep.
Yeah.
I mean, Tiff's not a small Ranger.
No, that's right.
But, you'd have to sort of, I suppose, it's a definite almost to say you need a snorkel for some of these cars.
Yep, definitely. So that will be the consideration with your budget. Have a look at what the final outcome is or what you need to do to that car to make it suit what you're planning to do.
Yep.
That's all. The other thing with your budget, you may stretch your budget a little bit more to reach a different platform or a better platform that may be better with room in the back for the kids or what have you, and you build that vehicle over a longer period. That's all. I guess might be the missus or the Minister of War and Finance that may not sign off on buying yourself a new Ram or buying the family a new car. And like we have heaps of customers, they might do it in 6 stages throughout the build. That's all.
And I think it's important, I guess, from the very first point to when you walk into the dealership and buy the car, that you know what that 6th stage, or have an idea of what that 6th stage is going to be.
Yeah.
Like, there's no point buying a Ram and having a budget of 150 or 200k if you know you're going to have to drop 50, 100k on it.
Yeah.
And even if you are doing it in stages, it adds up. And we see it all the time with accessories, fitments, and we sort of, customers get sort of taken back a bit by a bull bar and lights and a set of like a winch and a set of mirrors is going to cost them.
Yeah.
You know, that alone is probably up around 15k just in that, and it doesn't seem like a lot. So all that sort of stuff is definitely worth considering, like from the get-go.
Yep, for sure. And it should be that massive consideration on what do you actually need to do. That's all. Even on some of the US trucks, it's the same thing. So, you know, the Rams are great, the 1500s are a good towing platform, don't get me wrong, but one of the number one accessories that we fit around here is Ram long range tanks and GVM upgrades. So, you know, even if you do GVM upgrade and a long range tank to a Ram, I think they're a 100 litre tank in them.
Yeah, roundabout, 120 or 95, depending on the model.
You know, so that 100 litres, if you are towing a caravan, for example, you're running 22 to 25 litres per 100 in reality.
Yeah, I get 2,500, 25 litres per 100 out of mine on average. But yeah, anywhere from 23 to 27 litres per 100, and that's a 3-tonne van, 20-foot van.
So with a standard 100 litre tank, you got 400k range. That makes it unnerving.
That's very unnerving. Yeah, it's unnerving for me.
Knowing that you can't get from here to Geraldton on one tank of fuel. So, as a touring platform, when you look at a Ram, that might be something to consider straight up. Is a long range tank, take it to 200 litres, so that you get that extra capacity. That's all. And I got a long range tank in my car. It's 230 litres. That recent trip we did to Brizzy, and Cole, the cameraman, he was driving a D-Max. I was skipping every second servo. So I was getting, 1,600 Ks out of a tank, not towing. So, and when I am towing, I'd be getting 1,000 Ks easy, if not more. So the last trip we did, I basically drive from here to Carnarvon before I have to fuel up, which is around 1,100 Ks. So they're the things to consider on what vehicle you're actually looking at, and we'll touch on that a little bit more on some of the platforms and what accessories. So, bit of a recap: when you are looking at your budget, consider what other accessories you need to add to the car to make it suitable to what you want to do, and you probably need to factor that into your budget. Alright legends, so if you're enjoying the video,
give us a like,
smash that subscribe button,
and ring the bell.
How was that for a trio? Good job, boys. Yes. The next category is going through and breaking down each model, I guess. So what we're looking at what models we're looking at, what payloads they've got, all that kind of stuff. In my opinion, one vehicle that is a strong contender in my eyes in that 0 to 100,000 K range is the new next gen Ranger.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is really chalk and cheese. It's miles
In the
above,
V6 model.
In
Now,
the V6 model.
In my opinion, only milk and juice comes in 2 litres.
Yes.
So if we were looking at the next gen Ranger, I would say 100% that 3 litre V6 would be the only platform to actually consider.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, Brendo, I know this is a hot topic in sales, mate, on the next gen Ranger.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a Ranger, like I said, at the moment is probably, in my opinion as well, probably one of the best, I guess, entry-level new vehicle dual cabs that we can look at and modify. The amount of accessories that are already available on the market for such a new car. You know, bull bars, wheels, tyre suspension, and GVM, GCM upgrades now available. So we're starting to see these sort of flow through, and we're bombing out Rangers that are coming from all over the country at Core, you know, and people are just going to town on them, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I know you see some of the stuff on the news and on the internet, you know, about these Rangers having issues. Yes, there is some problems there. The latest one I saw the other day was a software update that when the vehicle's in low speed, they're starting to have issues and the vehicle can stop. One thing I've said to heaps of people over the years, everybody forgets about these new models, right? So you go back to 2007, 2008, right? The release of VDJ or 200 series Land Cruiser.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, dust and turbos, everything like that, heaps of issues with them.
Yep.
Everybody forgets that. And they go, oh, my trusty old 200, she's going to go everywhere and it's never going to break down. D-Max, BT50 MY21 model.
Yeah, like every vehicle's got its flaws. No vehicle's perfect out of the factory, and we always want to try and build the cars like we touched on just before. A Ram, you know that if you're going to set it up for towing, you're going to change the fuel tank because it's suiting that sort of thing. 200 series or a 79 series or something like one of those VDJs. One of the first things you're going to want to do is throw a new airbox on it.
Yeah.
You know, you know, 79 series. We're going to get a tune or engine remap or something like that. We need
change the clutch.
Change the clutch.
Change the clutch. There's $1,500.
Getting more power. You need to stop
Yeah.
the thing, so you need to upgrade the brakes because the brakes are shocking in them.
Yeah.
You know, and the list goes on. So,
But like going back to that Ranger platform,
Out the box.
yeah, out of the box. You know, we're looking at payload, so we've got some specs here. So we're looking at a double cab XLT pickup, I guess, so with a tub. You know, you got 995 kilos of payload straight up. So, you know, you're just under that ton. Out of the box, that vehicle with the V6 and the 10 speed, in my opinion, in that under 100k mark, would be my choice. That's all. I know, Brendo, you're a Mazda fan, mate.
I am, yeah, a Mazda fan, and the same with the Isuzu D-Max. Now, I guess, much the same platform, the same trusty 3-litre 4J engine, which I guess comes back to the reliability side of things. You know, same as why people go to the 70 series. People know them, they've been around for ages. Same with the D-Max, they've got the old forklift engine in the 4J, so it's as trusty as anything.
Yeah.
It's just the new technology and that, but same sort of thing. Out of the box, we're looking at just over 1,000 kilos in
1,055
payload
kilos.
and an equivalent sort of model in that pickup as well. So that with the Ranger and the GVMs and all that sort of stuff's available, gives you heaps of flexibility.
Yeah. I mean, how about we compare those to an American truck?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we seeing a lot more of these American trucks on the road. I know we've touched on, you know, the fuel tank side of things as well. But I mean, if you are looking to put some decent accessories on it or put a canopy on it, you know, like something we do here.
Yeah.
I mean, how are we going to go with the GVM side?
Yeah,
you know,
for sure. That's consideration. I guess the rest of the lineup in that 0 to 100k mark, we're looking at a Hilux as well.
Yep.
One thing I didn't realise, but we noted this morning, that unless you go to an SR5 Hilux, if you do the SR model, being the base model, you only got 3,200 kilos in towing capacity in a standard dual cab, which is something that
in an auto.
Yeah, in an auto. So if you go the manual,
Yeah, you get 3,500.
Yep.
But in auto, you only get 3,200 towing.
yep. So unless you go to an SR5, which you then get the 3.5 ton towing in both auto and manual. That's
No,
all.
it's
I know.
actually- no,
Auto,
30,
yeah. Autos.
All the autos are 3,200 towing.
Yep.
And the manuals are 35.
Yep.
So
So unless you want to drive a Manuel car and it's a Hilux, you're 3,200 kilos in towing capacity for all of the auto range. So the other vehicle to look at in that 0 to 100, which we touched on before, is a 79 series. Right now, on paper, the list price of a 79 series is $77,200. I think that needs to skip a class.
It does need to
I think it needs to go in the 100 to 150 because to drop $23,000 on a 79 series isn't bloody hard when you start looking at some of the upgrades. But I think for the purposes of what we're doing, it'll stay in the 0 to 100 category and roll with that. The other one might be the V-Dub.
Yes, yeah,
As well?
yeah, Volkswagen Amarok. I mean, Ford Ranger, Volkswagen Amarok.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's same platform, so we've got to put that in the mix, don't we?
Yeah, but one thing with the Volkswagen Amaroks, I guess they've redesigned their shape and all that recently, but
They
as
look
much
good
as
too. They look real good.
they do, as much as they are the same, the aftermarket side of things
Yeah.
isn't there like it is with the Ranger, despite
Yeah.
it being the same thing. So things like GVMs require a whole heap of vehicle testing, and they need to test every single model in that range to make it kit compliant. So getting a GVM upgrade for an Amarok is virtually impossible compared
Yeah, so
to
even though it's the same car.
even though it's the same car,
Yes.
it's a big cost factor for manufacturers or suspension manufacturers to offer something like that.
Even the previous model, how many Amarok owners have you had walk into the showroom and say, I want this real cool bull bar, and you say, mate, sorry, they don't make
Yeah.
it for that model. And they're like, oh, okay, no worries. That's also, that might be something to consider as well with the vehicle platform. I think the Amarok for MY23 or 22 might get a bit more traction than the previous model because they are running the V6 and it's on the Ford platform and all that kind of stuff. So I think they might get a bit more traction from aftermarket accessory manufacturers for bull bars and stuff like that than what they have previously. I guess other vehicles in that 0 to 100 range, I think that's really about it. There is more, as Brendo said earlier, but I don't think they need to be considered as a full-blown touring vehicle.
Yeah,
That's all.
Yeah,
So-
just going back to that, the very first topic is finding the vehicle that you got to be happy with the vehicle. It's all well and good saying, well, this is going to be the suitable vehicle for me, but if you don't like it, what's the point?
Yeah. And in the next class, we're 100 to 150. So, BA, what cars we sort of covering off in that medium? I wouldn't say medium, it's upper end as well. Well, I guess we're looking at Ram.
Yeah. So your American trucks.
Yep.
So the smaller end of the American truck, should we say, 1500s. So you got your Silverados.
Yep.
You got your Ram 1500s.
Yep. I think the 300 series.
Chop 300, Chop 200.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean
all the
even the
chop.
new F-150s.
Yeah, new F-150.
F-150s.
Yep.
So in that sort of, in my opinion, that sort of range, your American trucks, your lighter style American trucks, so your 1500s, have to, if you're going to put a canopy on or you're going to use them as a more liveaboard, they have to have a GVM upgrade.
Yep.
They just don't have the payload.
Yep.
But
A lot of people think American trucks are big, don't they?
Oh, for
And
sure.
they think that they can haul ass, I suppose you could say.
Yeah.
And for towing, great. Like out of the box, 4.5 ton towing. There's nothing in the smaller range that can match
compares.
it,
No.
and that's where I think they fit into the scheme of things. Is for towing. You look at my Ram 1500, for instance, it's got less carrying capacity than your Ranger.
Yeah.
It's
By
that-
a long way.
By a long way, yeah.
You know?
But that's what you want to do. I tow a caravan. I don't have a canopy. I don't put a heap of stuff in the back.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, I take my caravan, and then I go out if I'm going to go full drive, and I use the car
Yeah.
as pretty much
Yeah.
just the car on its own.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got a canopy on yours, and you use it a different way. So
I guess with the Rams and their slogan, Rams are great, don't get me wrong, the whole eats utes for breakfast. If you were to take that slogan and compare it to payloads, it might eat Jeeps for breakfast. But other than that, everything else is smashing a Ram 1500 on payload. One of the biggest sellers that we have is that Ram 1500 GVM upgrade.
Oh, they're in here all day, every day, aren't they?
Hey, that many Rams come through the shop, it is not funny. And what they're doing is they're doing long range tank, a bull bar, you know what I mean, some roof racks, but GVM upgrades.
Yeah, GVM.
Yep,
So-
for sure. And exhaust systems. So one thing I know with fuel prices at the moment, owning a Ram or a Chevy being a petrol platform, it's probably a good thing. Because the petrol, though, they might use a little bit more. That petrol's coming in cheaper. But the one contender that is about to land, that I think, in my opinion, is going to smash it, and I'm a Ford fan anyway,
150s?
is the new 150. Now, from what I know of, and look, put a comment in, let us know, from what I know of, Ram for 2024 are moving away from the 5.7 litre Hemi, and they're going to, I think it's a
Petrol.
yeah, Rebel
V6.
they're calling it, or something like that.
Oh, straight six, sorry.
Yeah, so it's going to be a similar platform. So the new F-150 is coming out with a 3.5 litre twin turbo, which is their EcoBoost engine. I think that
Single
engine's
turbo? Twin turbo?
Twin turbo.
Twin turbo.
Yeah.
Cool.
So performance-wise, the torque side of things, it's probably one thing where a petrol engine lets itself down is the amount of torque over diesel.
Yeah.
So Ford,
I think they put out more power than the Ranger Raptor.
yes, yep. So the F-150 platform, Ford are using that 3.5 litre V6 with the twin turbos to try and increase the torque. I'm interested. We've got one on order, so we're hoping ours turns up very soon. We're going to be doing some testing and maybe even another shop talk video on it. I'm interested to see how that's going to go towing wise, lined up against a Ram, and see the difference in the 5.7 litre Hemi versus that 3.5 litre.
It's going to be a battle of the big boys over here, isn't it?
Yeah.
You got to win one sooner or later.
Hey, do that's all. So
Big in some areas.
yeah, but I think that the F-150, it's going to shake things up a bit in the Aussie market. They're only offering 2 models they're bringing out, unlike Ram, where Ram have got a plethora of vehicles now that you can choose from for 2024. The F-150 is going to be XLT and a Laramie. So they're only bringing in 2 specs, and both models are loaded with chrome, which I absolutely hate, but we can sort that out at Core Offroad and we can get rid of it all. So I guess that's it. The Chop 300 might be the only other one to land in that 150 category, and much like the 79 series, in my opinion, I believe a Chop 300 should land in the 150 and over. Because
well, what's the price on a 300 series on paper anyway?
You're looking at $130,000 for a VX.
Well, Sahara, the pricing that we've got here, I think a Sahara is 131, a VX is 113, and a GXL is 100 grand.
So 100 odd grand plus.
Yep.
And what's a Chop, Brendan?
I'd say 50 to 60k at least,
With a
with the
upgrade.
GVM and the appropriate suspension and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So straight away you're over that 150 mark.
Yeah.
Before any other accessories or canopy or whatever you plan to do.
So if we were talking about wagons, I guess the 300 series would land in that 100 to 150 mark.
Yep.
But we're talking about dual cabs, so I think we throw the 300 series in the mix with the big boys.
Yep.
That's probably realistic.
Yep.
So in that top class, being over 150 is going to be F trucks, 250 and 350, Ram 2500, 3500, Chev 2500, 3500. GMC Denali, I guess, if you're into square guards and things like that. But the other one would be that Chop 300 series.
Yep.
You know, so I don't know. I'm in that category. For those of you who don't know, I had a 79 series. I did 160,000 Ks in it. Absolutely loved it. Brent hacks on me all the time.
It was the best car you could buy at the time. There was nothing better. You couldn't convince Jimmy that there was anything better than a 79 back then until American trucks.
Look, and it's... once you go to that next part, and look, to be honest, a lot of it's got to do with the engine.
Yeah.
You know, inside a new next-gen Ranger Wild Track would probably be nicer than what my F-Track is.
Yeah.
What you can't go past is the drivetrain and the engine. You know, you're talking chalk and cheese. If we were to compare, let's do a 79 series, right? So on paper, a 79 series dual cab, brand new, off Toyota's factory floor, has 430 Newton meters of torque at the flywheel. My F350 has 1,430 Newton meters off the factory floor at the flywheel. Now, we're talking 1,000 Newton meters more torque. That's what you notice. That's all. And you put 3.5 ton behind a vehicle that's in that 150 category and above, you don't know the car's there. Honestly, like that thing, I scare people when we go to overtake them, because if they're sitting on 80 k's and we're in an overtaking lane, you accelerate that fast that it scares them because you come past them so quick. So not going over the speed limit, obviously. I guess that chopped 300, Brendo.
You're just not going to do that though, are you?
I know.
Not even close.
And this is where you're going to get those people that love Toyotas and love the 200 or the 300s and can't go past them. Their best platform, this where everyone's got their own opinion.
Yeah.
And I think we're probably all in the same. Like, I look at the price of a chopped 300 and I straight away I'd go a Ram 2500 every day of the week.
Yep. 100%.
That's my opinion.
Yep.
So,
I'm with you, mate. If a chop 300 was costing me 160,000, at that price, I'm only getting a GXL for starters. So if you're going to spend that much money, you probably would want a VX at a minimum.
Yeah. So
your 130,000 plus your 60, you're at 190 now. List price of a Ram 2500 is 157,950 now. This was at June 30. That pricing may be a little bit more. From what I know of, they're around the 180 mark drive away. So if I had a choice to buy a Ram 2500 or a chopped 300 VX, I would take the Ram and throw 10 grand back in my pocket.
absolutely.
Every day of the week. It's, from my side of things, it's not even comparable.
But I mean, also the American truck side of things too. I mean, that rolls off the floor like that, straight off the production floor.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, to expect these things out of a chop 300, chop 200, whatever have you. These things, I mean, yes, they're getting them right up there in the GVM and GCM side of things.
Yep.
But, you know, are we expecting too much from these cars?
Look, and the 300 series over the 200 have gone down in engine platform.
yeah, it's smaller. Yeah.
That's a lot to ask out of a little engine.
It is, and at the end of the day, they were saying cubes are king. You know, to compare that 3.6 litre to a 6.7, I'd take the 6.7 every day of the week. That's all.
And then if you're a family and you got kids, you look at the room in the back of a Ram 2500 compared to a Chop 200.
Yep.
Like, it's
For sure.
night and day.
Yeah. One thing you learn pretty quick in a US truck, when somebody goes to get in the car, you like literally cannot reach over to get the other door handle. You've got to undo your seatbelt and climb across the centre console.
So if you're one of these people that loves to drive with your hand on the missus' leg or something like that, you choose a cruiser. Choose a cruiser.
Yeah, grab a 79 series if you're really close to your missus then.
You can lift up the centre seat in the Ram,
Yeah.
the console, and you can sit right there if you have to have that. There's
right
always a
next to you.
solution.
Yeah. So I think that, 300 series, it's a bit of a no-brainer. Even in that column that Nico touched before about GVM and GCM side of things, that 150 and over column is kind of limitless, really. Right. Like GCM on my car is nearly 14 tonne. So it's ridiculous. But when a vehicle is designed to have a GCM of say 10, 12, 13 tonne, the brakes are then designed to be suitable for towing heavier loads. When your GVM is higher, the vehicle's braking system is designed to suit that. Now you take a 79 series, for example, you can increase that GVM to 4.2 tonne, but you remain with the factory brakes. Now I know my 79 series almost had a dint in the floor pan from where you'd smash the brakes trying to stop and the thing wouldn't stop. So there is options out there for stuff like that, brake boosters and all that kind of stuff from J-Max and all that kind of jazz. But as a standard off the factory floor, I don't know. The US trucks are very hard to go by.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all. So that's what we're running in the models for this segment. We'll then move through into a bit more about the performance side of things, about the lineup. I think GVM and GCM, to recap, US trucks, you don't normally have to worry about it. I know we do plenty of Ram 2500s here.
Yeah, that's one thing I'd just touch on. Ram 2500s, I think they're fantastic. They're probably one of my favourite cars. But the GVM on them is still, because the coil rear end is still low. So we do a heap of GVM upgrades.
Yep.
On the Ram 2500, it's still leaf. If you go to the 3500, the Ram 2500 is still coil.
Yep.
If you go to the Ram 3500, it's leaf, and it's got a lot more payload from factory.
Yep.
But if it was myself, I'd still go 2500 and do a GVM upgrade, so you still got the coil rear end for comfort.
Yeah. But yeah, that GVM side with the 25s, we're taking to 5,400 kilos. So you've got heaps of GCM in the US platforms, especially in the 2500, 3500 range. But where they fall short is the GVM side of things. I know the new F-150 that's coming. I've read all the specs. The new F-150, you're going to laugh, is coming with like 670 kilos of payload, which is pathetic. But the front rear axle ratings are a lot higher. So that Ford platform, when companies do start offering a GVM, I think the max combined front rear axle rating, and don't quote me, you can leave a comment, that's fine, is going to be closer to that 1,000 kilo mark. Yep. At the max front and rear axle rating. Yep. So as that vehicle lands, more aftermarket manufacturers and suspension companies get a hold of it, that payload or what will be available for that vehicle will start to increase. But yeah, I think I'm 5,600 kilos factory GVM on my car, and I haven't done a GVM upgrade. I think I can go to 6.2 tonne or 6.3 tonne if I do the GVM upgrade.
Yeah, more on that too. Might want to touch on license classes.
Yeah.
So something for people to keep in mind, if they're looking to purchase one of these big American trucks.
Yep.
All great.
Yep.
But bear in mind your license class.
Yeah. So I've got light rigid. So it's basically anything over 4.5 tonne, you need to go to light rigid. Yep. So if you do a GVM upgrade on, say, a Ram 2500,
yep, you're going
to go over the 4.5 tonne. You do have the choice too that you can actually buy the vehicle with a lower payload. I know with my F truck, I could have ordered a vehicle that had bought a vehicle that had a lower GVM, which meant I could have driven a 3500, 350 off a standard.
And another thing, I suppose, to touch on that as well is, just keep in mind, the amount of V's you can actually have. If you got an American truck and you have to have an increased license, then
What is it? Is it zero?
Zero.
Yeah, zero. So
well, I don't know. There's conjecture. I thought that it was only if your vehicle had GVM over 22 tonne that you had to blow zeros.
Yeah, I thought it was zero over anything over 4495 G or
4.5 tonne. Yeah.
You had to have zeros. So if anyone knows the correct answer,
in WA, by the way.
Yeah, in WA, because we're a bit different to a lot of other states in a few different ways. But yeah, throw a comment in. Let us know what the
rules are.
Tell Jimmy he can't ever drink. That'd be fantastic.
That's fine, mate. That's fine.
And what it's like in your state, whether you can get away with it or not.
Yeah. So that's probably another consideration too, especially if you love your standard squeeze.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it might be another consideration too with that 150 and over category at whether you can have a beer and drive home. So,
or whether you're just going to go on the beach and have a beer.
Yeah.
I love having a beer when I go on the beach.
Go down the beach, sunset, have a beer and drive back.
Yeah, but if you got to know that you've got to blow zero, it sort of might, might just mean you've got to spend a bit more time in the water.
Yeah. Mate, I'd rather not have the beer and drive an F truck, so I'll hold off. I'll stick with a bottle of water. I'll roll with that for sure. So I've just realised at the end of that last segment I now can't drive home because I just had a shot out of my standard squeeze. But this next segment, what we're going to be touching on with the vehicles we've been talking about, off-road capability, reliability, fuel efficiency, performance, along with Aussie trucks versus the US trucks and some of the myths that go with it. That's all. So off-road capability, I think we need to start with Toyota, I guess, because the off-road side of things and the reliability with a Toyota, I don't think anybody can deny.
No.
That's
it's there. That's one
it's
of the
there.
things with 79 series.
Yep.
If something does break, pretty much anywhere around Australia, any wrecker is going to have that part, or they're going to be able to get that part that you need for a 79. So I think that peace of mind is one of the things that 79 owners normally like.
For sure, and you can't deny that with Toyota.
No.
Toyota have a long reputation of reliability, and you can't take that away from them. Same thing, my
And it's well deserved as well.
It is well deserved, for sure. I know when I was looking to buy a new car, I was leaning more towards Ram, because Ram have their 50 odd dealers now, Australia wide, and it's a bit more comforting knowing that you have that as end up buying an F truck anyway, which there is no dealers throughout Australia. But today, touch wood, haven't had any issues with mine. But the reliability side of some of these vehicles, we did touch on a little bit earlier about some new models like the next gen Ranger having some issues, but you look at N80 Hilux with Toyota, there's a class action against them at the moment with their DPF issues. So I think we need to not forget that every manufacturer, when they release a new model, starts to have some reliability issues. MY22 or 21 D-Max and BT50, they had issues, electronic issues, cars shutting down and things not working and all that kind of stuff. But still goes back to you can't take it away from Toyota. Good old 79 series, basic. You literally have to pay for a clock. I know when I bought mine, it might be different these days. They are trying to do a few more mod cons and.
But I think they got cup holder standard now.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just one. But.
Yeah. You still only get one. I think they're obviously the new model 79's coming out. They're bringing it out in a auto.
Yep.
But it's only the
variances.
2.8 litre version. Don't get me wrong, 79 series, that's technically a military grade vehicle, but they've just taken the normal centre console and just put a gear shifter where the cup holder was. Like, come on, Toyota, you can do better than that. That's all. And why to this day, I don't know why Toyota. I know Australia is a small fraction globally in the automotive market for Toyota, but why they don't make a dual cab 300 series baffles me. But reliability side with some of the other platforms from Ford. Ford have got a decent history as well with the Rangers. Nico, you've got a PX3, mate.
Yeah. I can't fault the Ranger. It does what it needs to do. It would be absolutely fantastic to be able to tow as much as what you do in your car.
Yeah.
I'm never going to get there. Reliability side of things, there's little things, but I suppose I do push mine to sort of its limits.
It's got some extra fruit on it too, especially in the engine bay. Yeah,
it's got a bit of extra fruit in the engine bay. It all sort of helps with my application anyway and what I use it for. It's purpose built. I'm assume that most people thought when I bought TIFF, it was going to just look like a show pony for its life.
Yeah.
Well, it gets used for what it's meant for. It doesn't. There's not a single track I look at and I don't attempt to go down.
No, that's right. And Brendo, for those of you who don't know, Brendo's a mechanic by trade. He did his apprenticeship at a Mazda dealership, so Brendo bleeds Mazda.
Bit biased.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's probably why I have a Mazda, to be honest, is because I've seen the worst. And when you work at a dealership or when you see lots of these cars having issues, you really forget about how many vehicles are actually on the road.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you start to see common things. So one of the things, like with the early, the 3.2 BT50s and the PX1 and 2 Rangers as well, was the EGR coolers.
Yeah.
They sit so close and they feed right down to the auto trans, or heats up the auto trans, and that's why they were cooking auto trans boxes.
Yeah. So
one of the first things I did when I bought my BT50 was
Upgrade it.
Or definitely didn't remove it. The EGR coolant, I just completely bypassed it. I made my own coolant lines and everything like that, and not once did I ever have a problem with high temps in the auto trans, which was a common problem.
Yeah.
So I guess knowing the vehicle as well.
Yeah.
But I'm with Nick. There's not one single track. I spent 10 months travelling Australia. I've been seeing everything in WA just about, and half of South Australia. There's not one track that I looked at and thought, I'm not going to go through that because the water's slightly too deep, or there's a few too many rocks in that sort of incline, you know, like same again, Gibb River Road. Some of the crossings, like in Elk Westro Station and that sort of thing, is up over the bonnet well and truly, and you open the door and all the water's gushing out and that sort of thing.
I didn't have that part. Touch wood, I did quite well.
But that's only when you get bogged in the middle.
I think I actually had 2 people sitting on the back of the tray because they didn't want to take they had a Subaru, Subaru Forester up there, you know, so I had 2 people sitting on the tray and I drove through, and, you know, there's not one point where I thought, nah, BT can't do that. You know what I mean?
That's
Whereas, you know, some of the tighter tracks you look at, like Brent, I don't know, like the Ram, there's many places, I guess, that you've been to where you've sort of gone, no, I don't want to, the scratches aren't worth it or something like that.
Well,
he always says that.
Not necessarily. I might not be as
adventurous.
Yeah, that's probably the word, as you guys, but they aren't as big as what some people think, and when I say big, is in width wise. So when they say the American trucks are too big for the Aussie tracks and stuff like that, it's not the case. They are equivalent to a 200 series basically. So
essentially. So the canopy that we manufacture for a Chop 200 or a Chop 300 series is 1980 mil overall in width, and it sits 4 mil either side past the widest point of the vehicle, being the lower hip section around the wheel guard of the car. My canopy is 20 wide, so we're talking 40 mil difference between a 200 or 300 series and an F truck. Now, if that was a Ram,
1500s, they're the same.
They're 1980. So the canopy that we manufacture for a Ram 1500 is 1980 mil. Now, no one ever says that their trusty old 200 series, she never lets me down. They never say
too wide for any
that's
Aussie
too
track.
wide.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? Yes, a Ram's probably longer, but you look at a Chop 200 series, man, that thing would be longer than what your stock car is.
Yeah, 100%. So the 1500 side of things, like in width wise and performance off road, I said, you might be a little bit. Well, I might be a little bit more protective of it, you know.
So am I.
In a way, but it's still got pinstripes, it's still got scratches,
and it's the type of touring that you're doing as well. Like when we were around, we didn't, I guess, park up at, you know, some of these places and stuff. A lot of the spots that we wanted to get to, you had to go through, some pretty hardcore sort of spots because they're the most isolated things. Whereas some of those places, Brent and Jimmy, you probably wouldn't want to take the caravan or...
We do, like even when we went to that trip to Queensland, me and Cole was kicking back. I spent 3 hours we took to get down, or 2 hours to get down one track. I spent 80% of that out the front with my 18-volt chainsaw. Doing a bit of trimming. Don't get me wrong, because when you do have something like that and you hear the of the pinstripes, it does make your blood boil. But
you had a Y62 Patrol or something, you'd be doing the same thing.
Exactly.
You know?
You know, so if I had an old bloody GQ Patrol, I wouldn't care, mate. I'd send the bloody thing. So it comes down to what touring you're doing. That's all. So it's, I guess, the reliability of some of the other vehicles that we're looking at. Obviously, we've covered a bit of D-Max and BT50 with new models. The Rangers, the next gens have got the reliability there, or starting to. It will come with time. The other platforms like Rams, the reliability side of things for them, granted, a lot of people aren't flogging the guts out of a Ram 1500 or a 2500 and an F truck as much as some other platforms, but the reliability side of things is there with them as a general touring vehicle.
Yeah, I haven't had any issues with mine. Whether that's off-road, and I do everything with mine. Tow the caravan everywhere we go. Then off-road, up beaches, up hills, whatever. Haven't had anything break or any problems. So,
and it comes down to what you're planning on doing with the car. I know I have heaps of customers. People might watch Jason Simo on All for Adventure and think, oh, that's what I'm going to do with my car. But I guarantee you,
in reality,
there is a very small portion of people that would build a vehicle
and do that to it.
You know, hats off to you boys, mate. Awesome show. Love it. Love what yous do. But for the average person, limited.
Yeah, putting that much money into something and then literally going at it that hard.
Yeah.
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 We got our neighbour here.
Not too many people would do it.
Yeah, our neighbour here next to us at Core Offroad, he
Chop
has
200.
one of Jace's Chop 200 series from I don't know which season it was.
The black one.
Yeah, she's had a hard life. It's still
Yes.
it's
It's got very little K's on it.
Yeah.
And the other side of that is like he does use it for what it was intended for, and he does drive it hard. But in saying that, it's been in here a few times to have the whole thing completely stripped.
Yeah.
It's been swimming a few times.
It's been swimming where there's watermarks up the doors and all the electrical's gone. You got to rip it all out, and fix it all, and spend thousands and thousands of dollars because you've gone through one water hole and haven't made it.
Yeah.
And all these gremlins start coming out. So,
And even some of our customers as well, with them pushing their cars. We had a car, and this week one of our customers had the car for 2.5, 3 years. I think it had 55,000 Ks on it. It looked like it had 255,000 Ks on it. Some of our customers are building vehicles that isn't their daily driver. It's literally designed just as a touring vehicle. They just come back. I think they've done the Cape, and we've had our customers have done the Gib 2 or 3 times. They've had a hard life, and it starts to show with the car. That's all. But the reliability side of things is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the next section, while we're talking about Rams, is fuel efficiency and range.
Or the lack of.
I don't know. This is such a big issue. Well, not
a big issue.
But such a
It's a hot topic.
hot
mate.
topic.
It's-
Like the amount of messages I get about my fuel efficiency, and people say, "Really, honestly, what is it?"
Yeah.
Expecting to be bad, and some people are like, "Oh, that's not so bad." Some people are like, "Wow, that's huge," but in my opinion, it's equivalent to other platforms towing the same sort of thing. So I tow a 3-ton van, as I said before, and average we get 25 litres per 100. If I'm driving 27, 28 litres per 100 maybe, if the missus is driving 22, 23 litres per 100.
Yeah.
You put that alongside a 200 series,
You're going to be very
the
similar.
same, or a
79
YY62
series.
or a 79 series, towing a 3-ton van, full-size van, the same thing.
Yep.
They're all around the same, or worse. So the myth that the Hemi V8, petrol V8 is more expensive to run, and at the moment, unleaded's cheaper than diesel.
Yep.
In most places.
Yep.
It's not that bad. And yes, you obviously got the range. And, well, mine's got a 120 litre tank, so obviously you don't have a huge range. But even saying that too, depends where you're going. We just went all up the Coral Coast and Windrabandy and 14 Mile and all those sort of spots. There's nowhere where I was like, oh, I'm not going to get to that spot. There's that many fuel stations around that unless you're going through the centre of Australia or something like that, you have to really worry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be inconvenient stopping all the time, but
Yeah. And setting that vehicle up, Jody's car, for example.
Yeah.
Jody's got a DT Ram 1500 run, a 6-inch lift and 37s. I swear every time I get in that car, the fuel light's on. She doesn't have a long range tank. Driving around town, going from home to work and work to school and
Yeah, but
back
she
home.
can't reach up to the fuel filler.
Yeah, that's right. That's too high.
That's right. So, that's the hubby's job.
Yeah, but running, I guess, that platform with a set of 37-inch tyres is going to zap or consume a hell of a lot more fuel. I think on Jode's dash, she's running 19 litres or 20 litres per 100 just driving around town.
I'll let you know because I got 6-inch lift and 37 sitting at home for it. So
it'll be interesting to
we'll
see.
see what difference it makes.
Yeah.
Because around town I'll get 15, 16 litres per 100 without the van on.
Yeah.
Cruising around town. So to me it's not that bad for what it is, and it's miles per litre rather than miles
That's
per
right.
litre.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to get 6-inch and 37, so we'll give you some real comparison on fuel anyway.
Yeah. So I guess that fuel efficiency side of things, from everything I've heard about the new 300 series, bang on with efficiency compared to the previous 200 series. So, I've spoken to customers, I've spoken to other people, they're saying, we're a 200 series with their 3.5 tonne van was around that 25 litre per 100 mark, they're down to sort of 20 litres per 100.
Yeah.
Which is, that's a good thing. It's good for the end user, it's good for the customer, probably not so good for Ampol, but that side of things does make a hell of a difference.
But keep in mind too, I mean, we are going off a base 300 series.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone decides to chop the back end off of it
Yep.
and extend it and make it a ton heavier and drop a canopy on it, and you can't really expect to get those figures that you're seeing on paper.
And it'll be the same thing, like even with Rangers. Personally, I haven't spoken to anyone who's had a V6 Next Gen Ranger. I would assume the fuel consumption side of things would be quite good with the Next Gen Ranger. Bang us a comment. Let us know what size van you're towing, what vehicle you've got, and what fuel consumption you're getting. I know it's almost a forum for Ram owners, because it's kind of like, you got a Ram too? Oh yeah, what's your fuel consumption like? Only in the 1500 range.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I think while we're on that, is the diesel side of things in the Rams with the 6.7 Cummins and all the other American trucks, the Duramax, the F trucks, with the Power Stroke. I think once you go to that diesel V8 turbocharged or the big 6 in the Ram turbocharged, the fuel efficiency isn't knocked around so much when you're towing something or when you've got a lot of weight on. So I'll lose 10 litres per 100 putting my van on the back. I think with the Rams and that, you don't lose. You would know what's the difference.
So I
between
go
yours.
from towing our vans probably on the high end of 3.5 tonne, if not a little bit more, where I was doing 21, 22 litres per 100, maybe 23, compared to driving around town, I'm probably 18. So
you don't lose as much.
No.
Maybe 5 litres per 100 rather than 10 litres per 100. So something to keep in mind if you are towing, and that fuel efficient side of it.
Yeah, for sure. And it depends how you drive it too. With a Ram 1500 or a Ranger or any car, you drive it like a maniac. It's going to burn fuel. I know with my F truck, if I take off at the lights because I have a Ram 1500 beside me and I want to see how everything goes, my fuel efficiency goes off the Richter scale. So it also depends how you're driving it. But I bought my vehicle as a tourer and to tow, so that suits what I'm using it for.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
all.
if the people out there, are towing a van full time or looking to purchase a car that they can tow a van full time, that's something to, I suppose, consider as well. I mean, cost versus diesel versus petrol. I mean, that's.
Nico, you'd see it all the time with customers coming to hire vans off of you guys.
Absolutely.
That platform side of things, and you're towing vans constantly in a range of different sizes that you guys have got with the business. I guess, some feedback even from you. What are most customers towing?
No, we do feedback, get a lot of feedback from customers, and I tell you what, like the most popular, I suppose we would see, would be your Prado. So align that with like a Hilux or something like that. But I mean, if you're looking to save in the hip pocket, I suppose, then you would go for one of those smaller dual cab utes, because I mean, from my experience, if I put a bigger van on, I'll be sitting around 17 to 17.5 litres to the 100. So I mean, which is quite considerably less than, I suppose, a petrol V8 like Brent was saying, or a diesel like yours. But in saying that too, it's a big weight difference.
The biggest thing I noticed on that towing side of things, going from my 79 series, and I had a 200 series before that, it wasn't chopped, it was just a wagon. I'd do a trip from here to Exmouth, or we'd go from here to Gladstone Camp, for example, and stop the night and then go the next morning. Doing 10 or 12 hours in my 79 with our van on the back, when I got out of the car, I felt it. Not so much for the comfort side of things, I was forever concentrating on driving the actual car, and depending on what the road was like or where we were, I was forever, not correcting, but I was forever just concentrating on what we were doing. So the big thing with the F truck now, one, you don't feel the caravan on the back of the car. And two, I get out of it after doing that long trip and I'm not concentrating. The thing tracks really well, and it's something we're talking about before this episode started, was the longer wheelbase of a US truck, or even a chop 300 series, for example, or 200 series, or Ram, and the extra little bit of width does stabilise that car when you're towing.
A much better, I suppose, for you mentally as well. I mean, which then boils down to, it's going to be much safer for you to get your family where you want to go as well. I mean, if you can be get from A to B
Yeah.
with half the fatigue,
Yeah.
then I think you're in a much better place.
Even when I was driving back from Queensland after the Brizzy show earlier in the year, one thing I noticed, I was smashing the K's out, driving home to get home, almost beat Jody and the kids flying home. When I was driving at night time, the thing that I noticed, the amount of cars that their headlights were in my eyes, and they probably copped it back from me because my headlights are quite high off the ground. When the car would go past a little D-Max, for example, that probably didn't have the correct suspension, but it had a 3.5 ton van on the back, and the back of the car was sacked out, so the headlights were hammering me in the eyes driving back. So it comes back to setting your vehicle up correctly, and the old rule of thumb is that your tow vehicle should weigh more than whatever you're towing. That's, you get a bog stock D-Max, which, what are we running for an Isuzu in a tear weight or a curb weight?
It would be around
22. 2045. Is that right?
Yeah, so even like a,
Yeah, weight 2045.
yeah, towing a 3.5 ton van.
Yeah, there's no way, like, people do it.
Yeah.
Personally, like, I've got a 1500. What's my 1500? My 1500 is 2620.
Yeah, it's a bit closer.
Bit closer.
Yeah,
And normally I have a water bladder on the back, so I'm probably close to 3 ton.
Yeah.
And I tow a 3 ton van.
yeah,
That to me is comfortable.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to tow my van with a smaller car.
Yeah.
Like, it's just,
yeah. You look at Cole with his 100 series.
Yeah.
Cole, the cameraman. Cole's got a 100 series cruiser, bog stock, nothing done to it.
So it's a 9.5 ton boat.
Yeah, Cole tows a boat that's nearly 4 tons. So when Cole starts to go around a corner, the car goes straight, that's all, and not around the corner. So Cole's, sitting on 90 k's an hour.
you know,
That's
30
all.
litres per 100.
Yeah, burning 30 litres per 100. That's with a tailwind.
Yeah. And the aircon off.
Yeah, and the aircon off. So having a vehicle, and that's one thing we've been talking to Cole about. Cole's potentially looking to buy a new car, and Cole would be in that range of, budget, what's going to suit what Cole's towing. Really,
Legally too.
mate, you're in the 100 to 150 range, my friend. You can't get out of that. That's all. So,
But I mean, a bit of experience coming from me as well, I suppose, that you need to when it comes down to your weights as well. I mean, the Ranger's capable of towing 3.5 ton.
yeah,
Would I tow 3.5 ton all day, every day if I was travelling full time? Not a chance in the world.
Yeah.
I would not recommend that to anybody.
yeah,
I mean, yes, the Ranger's got heavy duty suspension on it, but a lot of people are jumping in a bog stock Ranger Hilux. They can tow 3.5 ton. They're putting it on the back.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, like the stresses coming from driving that
yeah.
would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like-
Well, you take a next gen Ranger, right? So we've got specs here. So XLT pickup, dual cab in the V6 version, 10-speed auto. We've got 995 kilos of payload from factory. So let's say a 3.5 ton van, as the old rule of thumb, 10%
Yep.
of the ATM.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're going to have 350 kilos of ball weight.
Yep.
So you're already down to nearly 600 kilos of payload.
That doesn't take long to go.
It doesn't take long to go. Now, WA DOT state that it's 68 kilos per person on average for occupants. So you talk about 5 people in the car, do you know what I mean, with some luggage and everything like that.
You're over.
Without doing anything to that car, you have next to no payload
Yeah.
left. So that's without a tank of fuel as well. That's bog stock tyres.
That's not even a bull bar on the car.
That's right. So, and there is other videos on our channel about where we talk about, accessories and payloads and everything like that. So if you're watching this
Tyre
one,
weights.
tyre weights and tyre sizes and how some of that stuff affects your car. But if you are looking at purchasing a new video and you're watching this video, make sure you go and check out some of our other ones on the channel, because we do cover some other sections that aren't readily spoken about.
Absolutely.
That's all. So performance side of things, look, going through the specs, I'm still going back to that next gen Ranger or an Amarok.
Absolutely.
In that V6 version, for the performance side of things, you're going to have as much power under the sun that you want, but it's the torque as a touring vehicle is what is going to help you the most. Whether you are on the beach or you're towing something, it's the torque that's going to be the big factor. And 600 Newton meters of torque from standard for that new next gen V6 platform, it's hard to go past. 79 series, I know they do produce a hell of a lot more torque than the prescribed 430 Newton meters. I know mine running 35s had around 750 at the wheels, not at the flywheel, which would probably have been close to 900 at the flywheel in reality. So the reason why Toyota do that is that their clutch is
not good.
Not good.
So yeah, and that's right. Like every 79 that we do, we don't do a tune without a clutch.
Yeah.
And all the tunes we have done are over 700 Newton meters.
Newton meters, yep.
So, and that's at the hubs. So
yeah. And even that 4JJ engine with the D-Max and the BT50, like getting good numbers out of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and safe numbers. You know, I know Davo from Modified, who does all of our performance stuff. He's got his 4J there that they're doing up as a drag car, and it's not straight into it and things like that. That's probably not reliable as a tourer. Even TIFF, when it was first done, you know, pushing 290 odd kilowatts at the wheels with that tune, yes, it's been wound back. That's all for reliability, but most of these vehicles that we're talking about, I think the only one really is the next gen Ranger. Is the only one that isn't getting tuned regularly, because I think people are still working out how to get into the thing.
And a lot of people, I mean, if you can buy a vehicle off the production floor that is so good. Yeah. I mean, I think that's why they the numbers, you know, of sales sort of speak for themselves.
Even with 79s and 200s, like I know to get out of a 200 series, it's not an issue to get 1,000 Newton meters out of a 200 series. You know, so, but what are you sacrificing in reliability to get that performance?
Oh, absolutely.
That's all. Like my F truck, I was going to get it tuned. I've since changed my mind because I don't want to mess around with that factory setup. Some of the guys in the States, you know, they're getting 1 million miles out of that as standard. And it's one thing, they've already got plenty of power.
Yeah, do you need more to do it?
Do you need more to do what we're doing with it?
And that's the thing with those, same as with the Rams, I feel like, you know, and the Duramaxes, they make that much torque from factory.
You don't have to touch it.
You don't have to touch it. Yeah, if you want to, go for it. Like, happy days, but you don't have to.
Nope.
Like, where with a 79, if you put a bit of weight on it and then tow a van.
But mate, it's a slug.
So
it's ridiculous. Yeah. They're literally the slowest vehicle that you could possibly purchase.
And that's one of the reasons I got out of I had an MP300 and it was tuned and it was wound right up. But towing, I was into it all the time and I did do it, but it was a case of how long is this thing going to last with me pushing it this hard to tow my caravan at 100 k's an hour.
Yeah.
It was really highly strung, so it went away from it to something that did it more comfortable.
And like transmission too is another thing that you need to factor in. Most vehicles are running that 6-speed auto or 5-speed, some majority are 6. Some of the bigger vehicles are running 10-speed, Ram's got 8.
Yep, 8
so
speed.
Having more gears is something to factor into, because every engine has a sweet spot where it produces the most amount of torque. So, you know, same thing going back to the next gen range, like 10-speed auto. That's hard to go past.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so having them 10 gears and keeping that vehicle in that sweet spot, I know with my F truck, it'll skip gears. So it might start off in second. If I'm not towing anything, I go from second to fifth, then fifth to eighth, and then eighth to 10th. And it'll skip gears because it's got the torque to push it.
Yep.
As whereas the next gen Ranger may not do that high of a sequence when it's changing gears in the transmission, but it's keeping that engine
in the sweet spot.
In the sweet spot that's most suitable for the car. So transmission might be another thing.
Mine will skip gears on the way down.
Yeah.
So mine will go from like 8th to 5th if you put
and redline. Yeah. What you need to do is you need to put a screw through the dash where your tacho is, just to stop it from going in to the bit that draws heaps of fuel, mate. That's all. So when you need it, just undo the screw and let the tacho go all the way around. But yes, in one of our other videos, we touched on Rams. Is it a suitable touring platform? So if you're looking at a Ram, go and watch that video. But we had Scotty, who's one of my mates and one of our customers as well. Scott had come from a BT50 2014 model, and bought himself a Ram 1500. I think it was a bit of a culture shock for Scotty.
He struggled in the beginning.
Yeah, he struggled in the beginning because you go from a diesel engine that produces plenty of torque to a petrol engine which has got plenty of power but not much torque. They're chalk and cheese, you know. So I think Scotty's wife nearly killed him based on how much fuel they were using at the start. But now he's settled in, and driving the vehicle's different to how you would drive a diesel. They don't labour. So a petrol engine, you're not going to be able to use the torque to keep ticking along. It's then going to drop gears, like Brent's saying, rev its guts out to try and find that sweet spot to try and get the most power out of the engine as possible. So I think that's about it for the performance side of things. If there is any questions or you guys have got anything else, make sure you smash in a comment. Let us know. If we can try and answer it for you, for sure. And we'll get straight into the next section.
I look good, yeah, you know I look good. Looking good, yeah, I'm good. I look good, yeah, you know I look good. Looking good, yeah, I'm good.
All right, I think, guys, we need to really touch on accessories. I mean, that's one thing that we all love, we all want, and we all still need that budget for it. So, I mean, Brendo, I mean, what do we see out there?
Yeah, look, one of the first upgrades that, in my opinion, any four-wheel drive needs is a good set of suspension and a set of tyres. That's the first thing off the ranks that I'd be doing to any vehicle. That and a tank of fuel, and that'll take you to most places from a get-go. I guess moving from there, there's things like bull bars and long-range fuel tanks and mirrors and all that sort of stuff. But winding back to what we touched on earlier in the video, I guess, is knowing what that vehicle's going to be built for from the start. And knowing what that end phase is going to be before you start. So making sure that that suspension is set up from the get-go with good quality gear if you know you're going to be loading it up with the canopy and that sort of thing.
I mean, there's no reason, you'd never want to buy a lift kit, for instance, for your car and cut yourself short on GVM if you know you're going to be loading it up, right?
Absolutely, and with GVMs and any suspension, we in the sales team will talk to you and make sure that we're getting the right spring rate. So bull bar in the front end, for instance, if you're going to put a bull bar and a winch, we'll make sure that we put a spring that's going to be rated to carry that bull bar and winch in the front. So there are some sacrifices that you might have to make in the short term, like this BT50 here, got a pre-rego GVM GCM, and it drives pretty shocking, doesn't it, Jim?
Yeah, mate, it's phenomenal. That BT50, it's got a Dometic Esky in the back that's chock-a-block full of water and 2 water bladders because it's got a GVM upgrade with no payload in the back. So you literally need a mouth guard and a kidney belt to drive that car.
Shocking.
Yeah,
but ultimately it's set up ready for
that's right.
Every accessory,
canopy,
demand that you want to put on it.
And we needed that GCM upgrade. So it had to be done pre-rego. So I think going back to the accessories, that comes down to one of the first topics that we spoke of was what vehicle is going to suit what you're looking for. So choosing that right platform with a list of accessories, and I guess that's something that Brendo and the sales team help out with here, is choosing the right platform, what you're planning to do with it, and getting that thing decked out.
Yeah, and even just having a budget, I guess, is a good starting point. Once again, like with just the accessories side of things and saying, right, I've got this amount to spend on the car and this amount for accessories and that sort of thing. And then myself and the rest of the sales boys can sort of go, well, let's hold off on a set of Clearview power boards, which are going to cost you $2,500, $3,000, whatever, and let's put that money towards, better quality suspension that's going to...
Or a long-range tank.
Or a long-range tank.
Something that's going to suit their needs.
Something that's going to suit their needs. So that's where, customers, you can come to us and say, look, I've got 20 or 30 grand that I want to spend. This is what I want to do out of the vehicle. What do you suggest?
Yeah, for sure. And it's getting that priorities right. And a lot of people who are, they might have had a four-wheel drive for years, but, they're looking to go further with that car or do longer range touring. Getting that right advice from the get-go is critical.
Yeah, and like I said, priority on what you actually need first or what is most important, and the old saying, a poor man pays twice. Not to skimp on certain things, like for myself and I think for a lot of us here, tyres is something I'd never go cheap on.
Yeah.
And suspension's probably something else I'd never go cheap on. Those two things are
Yeah.
pretty critical. Tyres, just I would never skimp on. You don't want to be changing tyres and flats and that.
Yeah.
As least as possible. And suspension, if you're going to do the big corrugated roads, gib and all that sort of stuff, you want good suspension.
Yeah.
And
that's-
tyres, like you said.
And tyres for sure, you know. So, but it comes down to that need and want. And I guess that's, you know, even when I was in sales, you'd have a lot of people come through and say, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to do that. So what are you planning on doing with the car? Oh, we're going to do the gib. So, well, some of that stuff, mate, isn't priority over something like a long range tank or better suspension or a better set of tyres. So I think, choosing what accessories and then trying to get the right advice in the industry as well. That's probably a critical component, that's all. And I guess what we do here is a little bit different to some of the other canopy manufacturers where we have that full turnkey side where I guess the customer comes and picks up a car that's fully bombed out from start to finish. Even when I was in sales, I used to have customers say like, dude, slow up. I'd love to take your money, don't get me wrong, but the stuff you want to add to this car isn't going to be suitable to what you're trying to do with it. You know, we recently had a customer, God bless him, I originally did his quote and we went over budget on what he wanted to spend. We built the car, finished it all, and he had it for a week and then rang us and said, you know what, all the other stuff that we ripped off, I now want to put it back on. So he ended up finding a bit more budget to do the extra items, and 2 or 3 weeks later he dropped the car back off again and we fitted all the stuff that wasn't in his budget to start with. So everybody's situation is different. I think it goes back to choosing the platform, what accessories, and trying to get the right advice.
And what's available as well is a big thing, like we touched on earlier, is like the Amarok, for instance, as much as they're the same platform, there's not as much available as there is for the Ford Ranger, and even the US trucks was starting to sort of see an influx of products being available. Like we do a lot of off-road animal bull bars, and recently they've now got one for the 1500s. You know, and we're starting to see a lot of them sort of roll through, but not necessarily is it the case that every 1500 Ram needs a bull bar. Brent's car, for example. You know, so part availability is, I guess, a big thing as well. Something like a Ford Ranger or a Hilux or D-Max or something like that. There's going to be heaps of options, heaps of suspension to choose from.
And it can look completely different to somebody else's too. I suppose where you get something like the Amarok, like you said, you might get a bull bar for it. It's probably going to look the same as everyone else's out there.
Yeah, there might only be two available.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
more a commercial style over a more modern or aggressive style. Like even my bar for my car, it took 5.5 months to get it. 6 months.
That's right.
You know, and I paid through the roof for it because it wasn't available in Australia. You know, with the current exchange rate with the Aussie and US dollar, you're not really getting value for money coming out of the States, that's all. So it's
simple things as well, like a roof rack, for instance, like on a F truck, they don't have a backbone system.
Super cab
or a super cab.
Yep.
So in some cases, there's a lot of modifications they have to do to make standard accessories sort of, or basic accessories sort of fit like a roof rack.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, you know, some things that you need to factor in when choosing that model. And I guess with some of the US platforms, the 1500 range in the US trucks is getting better, as Brendo said. When you're looking at the 25s, 250s, 350s, 3500s in that range, one thing you guys need to understand is everything costs more for that car. It's not just you've got the money to afford one, we're going to charge you more. Like my bull bar is nearly $7,000. It's phenomenal. So compared to, say, a bull bar for a D-Max, it's $3,400. So that's something you need to factor in as well, you know, and that's where talking to the sales team and saying, look, this is what I'm planning on doing. This is what I want to do to the car. Almost every component for that larger range of the US trucks is more expensive, from suspension, availability for wheels, because majority of the heavy duties are running 8 stud configuration on your wheels. So the wheels that you can get for a next gen Ranger compared to an F350, it's like chalk and cheese. You're very limited
in
to
the
what
selection
you can
and
get.
price.
It's selection and price. That's all. Like my wheels got flown in from the States. So it's not like you can nip down to King Offroad and go and get yourself a new set of wheels and they're in stock in your state, ready to go. It's, you're up against it in some areas all the time.
And I think having that conversation with the sales team before you even buy that platform, or
absolutely,
what, obviously everyone's got an idea on what they want. Before you go to the dealership and get sold by a dealership, because let's face it, any dealership's going to tell you that their product is the best, they're there to sell it to you.
Yeah.
Whereas we don't have a bias on what platform you want, but we can certainly give you the advice on what we think in a range of weights and accessories, and to achieve the goal that you want to achieve.
And it doesn't cost you anything to speak to somebody.
No.
I mean, the experience that you'll gain from contacting the sales team, you'll come out of it probably much more, on track to knowing what you want.
Or completely confused about what you should do.
Yeah, but it can't hurt to talk
Absolutely.
to a couple of different people in the industry.
Yeah,
like
100%.
when I bought my 79 series in 2014, I wasn't in the automotive industry. I'm an electrician by trade. So it was the first ever brand new car that I'd bought. And I went into the local suspension shop in North Queensland and said, look, I'm buying a 79 series. I had an aluminium tray at the time with nothing else on it. And they said, yeah, mate, no worries. You need this leaf pack. So they gave me an 800 kilo constant load leaf pack, extra heavy duty front coils.
But that was great to drive.
I didn't have a clue. So once we'd set that car up, and in 2016 we went on our 10-month trip around Australia, I drove from Townsville to Deception Bay. We didn't even make it there, to be honest. By the time we'd done 700 or 800 Ks, towing the van and everything like that, my cruiser was riding like a pig. And we pulled in Deception Bay, and I went and spent 11,000, nearly 12,000 on suspension at Superior. So, and from then on, the thing was phenomenal. But I probably needed to do a bit more research from the get-go.
Yeah.
On the advice that I was given. So look, it can't hurt. Give somebody else a call, and different shops and different salespeople. We were talking with Brendo the other day. In the sales side of things, Brendo's favourite canopy that we manufacture, right, is a GTX model. He loves it. If Brendo's going to build a canopy, he would commission one of our GTX models with our GTU drawers and a roof basket. So Brendo sells heaps of GTX canopies, right? I'm the opposite. I want something that's full liverboard that I can live out of the vehicle from. So I would sell GTU models. So everybody's preference, I guess, is different. But with the accessory side, it can't hurt to talk to somebody else.
Yeah, and someone that knows what they're talking about. Even though our opinions might be different, at least it's going to give you the right questions to ask and ask the dealer and that sort of thing. And that's, I guess, the whole point of this video, is to just make people aware and not say this is going to be the right car for you, but this is what you should consider before buying.
Yeah. And this video might seem a little bit biased. It's not sponsored by Ford Australia. It's just that new next-gen platform. It does look really good on paper. They're not funding. This is brought to you by Standard Squeeze.
Yeah, well, you
has nothing to do with Ford.
You say that, but you wouldn't go buy a next-gen Ranger.
I would.
Over your F-Truck.
No.
Exactly.
But
So you wouldn't go buy a next-gen Ranger.
that-
I wouldn't go buy a next-gen Ranger. I would stick to a Ram. So,
But if my budget was 0 to 100 grand, yes, I would buy a next-gen Ranger.
If my budget was 0 to 300 or to 300 grand, I would buy a next gen Ranger.
Mate.
Bomb it out.
Tell you what, you get your LR license, I'll lend you the car for a week, and then we'll see what you say. Because I guarantee you wouldn't have the same opinion. That's all.
So we're not biased. It's just what we see every day and what we have ourselves, and the personal experience. I think from calling the sales team and what this video is about is our own experiences and what we've done.
Yeah. It's not the type of thing where you can walk into a dealership and say, "Oh, mate, can I borrow your Ram 2500 for a week? I want to see what it's like." So you literally drive it around the block and go for a bit of a lap. So getting some feedback on cars and different platforms is a good thing. We're no experts. It's not like we're car advice and we're doing a review on a certain range. It's literally our experience and what we see come through the door on a daily basis.
And I'm sure if you walk in and see the sales team, there's very high chance that the car you're looking at, whether it's one of these ones in the background here, there is always vehicles here.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that the sales guys can actually possibly show you actually one of the ultimate vehicle that you're looking at. So,
Or someone here will own one of the ones that you're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, definitely.
'Cause I was made for this. I'm at the top of every list. I was made for this. I was made for this.
All right, legends. So a bit of a recap to cover. If you have made it all the way to this point, I commend you, because we've been waffling on for a while to try and get through this, but there is a lot of information to try and cover and some of our experiences and all that kind of stuff. When you are looking to purchase a new vehicle, like we touched on before, looking at setting up, I guess, what you're expecting out of your new platform, then starting to work on your budget along with the final outcome. So your budget and your final outcome are going to be one and the same. So trying to focus on that side of things. The second section is do your research. So looking at talking to, I guess, different companies. May not be us, might be your local four-wheel drive store or what have you, to try and get some decent advice. I would advise pick up the phone and give Brendo and the sales team a call. The second thing is that part of the research, I guess, or the third thing is going to be taking vehicles for a test drive.
Yeah.
You know, so that was one thing, I guess, before I bought my 79 series, I went and hired a 79 series for a week. Cost me $600, $700 or whatever it was, but I drove one around for a week. I don't know where you could go and rent an F350 or something like that, but, you know, there is companies like in Western Australia.
for exploring.
Yeah, for exploring. You know, we've built 5 cars for them at the moment. They got 2 300 series, 2 Prados, which the second one's getting finished now, and they've got a Hilux, which is all bombed out with our GTX canopy and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, if you are looking at building a full platform, or you're looking at getting one of our canopies or decking out a touring vehicle,
You want
like
to try
a wagon,
first?
want to go and try one, get onto the boys at 4 Exploring. You can actually go and rent one for a week, go on a holiday with your missus or your family, that's all, and see what it's actually like. That may help you guide your decision or guide the direction on which way you're looking to go. So plenty of research to be done. This is what this YouTube video is all about, to try and help you guys. Remember, if there is something, either one we got wrong, which is probably a high chance that we messed something up, or you've got some information about fuel consumption, what you're using in your platform, make sure, smash a comment, or send the video or share the video with a mate that might have something to input or to let us know about, definitely. So look, thanks to all the panel and you guys at home watching the video, really appreciate it, and I honestly hope that you learnt something during this hour or more long video. So thanks for tuning in anyway, guys. We'll see you next time.